We've made it to a Degenerate Friday. Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing here on NoFilter.net. Of course, the great people at Caffeine TV, the various other platforms carry the show. We've got Mike Lubie. He's all smiles today because we got to the end of the week, and it was a brutal week. Almost like at my second winning, I needed a cut man in my corner. I actually invited Stitch Durant to be my best man at my second wedding, which was the drive-through chapel in Las Vegas, and it didn't end very favorably, but nonetheless, and it's part of a addendum in my book. Thank God I was broke at the time, because unfortunately, when I cut loose this second marriage, I had a little bit of guilt. So it was painful in that sense, but wow. I mean, we thought yesterday that we had everything under control, Louis. We're singing the song. We're trying to figure out what is the second line of the song. I can see clearly now the rain is gonna fall. And then all of a sudden we realize we can't see shit. What was that last night, Mike Lubie? Can you tell me what happened? Minnesota Timberwolves looked like they were finished. They lose 3 games in a row, right? They won the first 2. They lose 3 in a row.
Lost 3 in a row. Yeah,
they lose 3 in a row, and then they come back. It looks like they're ready to just go ahead and wave the white flag there. All of those Timberwolf fans going to be leaving going, "Awoo, awoo." Yeah, we'll get them next year. I tell you what, this Anthony Edwards is really going to be something. They win by 45. Can you explain this to me, Mike Lubie? So just when you think you have a feel, just when you think you have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the NBA in these playoffs, you get these kind of, that's not even a reversal of form. That looked like the fix was in, didn't it?
Yep. I don't know. I didn't get to watch any of it. The minute I was going to start watching the game, it was like a 20-point difference. And I'm like, what is going on with this game? I don't understand the playoffs really at all. I mean, look, the Celtics have had a cake route, so they've sort of taken advantage of that. But even they dropped 2 games that they had no business losing. The Nuggets, I don't understand this series. Like, at least, I thought it would be a highly contested series. So the fact that we're going to go to a game 7, I didn't look. The T-Wolves took them to 6 last year, so in the first round. So I wouldn't have seen that as some crazy thing. This could have possibly been a conference finals matchup. What's weird is how the games have gone. Like, every game's a blowout. Like, every game, the T-Wolves blow out the Nuggets 2 games, and the Nuggets blow out the T-Wolves 3 games. Now the T-Wolves, left for dead, blow out the Nuggets again. It's like I don't understand how inside the game it's ebbing and flowing from one game to the next so vastly. It's the same players. Like, they're not even dealing with injuries. Like, everyone's playing in that series. Like, I just don't.
Yeah. You would have thought Jokic didn't play, Jamal Murray didn't play, Gordon didn't play. Maybe they were going to be led by Contavious Pope.
Yeah, Caldwell Pope. Yeah, exactly.
Caldwell Pope. But nonetheless, that's what happened. Now, if you were betting the game, I hope you're on the right side of this thing, because Bet Online would be your place to go. The number one source for all your summer sports this season. MLB, golf, very exciting. PGA underway. NBA, which is Blowout City, and the NHL, big turnaround by the Rangers last night to get to the 3rd round of the postseason. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. You get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there, even the WNBA. You want to bet Caitlin Clark over under 10 points? You can do it at Bet Online. Head to the website today or use your mobile device. Very easy. Do it right from your car and get in on all the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, where do you want to begin with this thing? Our dissection of yesterday's series. Am I starting to morph into, do I look at all like Rachel Nichols? I think I'm a bigger curse than Rachel Nichols at this stage for NBA teams. I tell everybody very boldly on this show, very confidently, hey, go ahead, take the Pacers on the money line. They just won 2 in a row against the New York Knicks, including a blowout in Indiana. And holy Larry Bird, what the fuck happens? They go and they get blown out by 30-plus points. Oh, it's 30 right on the nose by the Knicks. And now you have the Pacers favored by 5.5 in the game tonight, Lubie, as the Pacers and the Knicks will go ahead. And is that game tonight? I think it is. Pacers and the Knicks.
Yes.
And at 5.5 points, would you lay 5.5 after watching what you did in the last game between the Knicks and the Pacers? So are you assuming that maybe the Knicks have figured out a way to at least patch the tire for a while? Air may still be leaking because of all the injuries they have. Probably given little shot to do anything more than, can they take the Celtics to 6 games if they prevail in this series? Maybe. You don't see either team really beating the Celtics. But nonetheless, this one hasn't concluded yet. And will the Pacers force a game 5? And would you be inclined, Mike Lubie, to lay 5.5 on a team that just got beat by 30 by the same squad?
They'd be forcing a game 7, actually. which I guess would be Sunday. I'm so scared to say anything because everything we've said has gone the total other way. The way this series has gone, Indiana, again, a young team, and that's why you've seen a lot of the blitzkriegs, and then you've also seen the big wins. It feels, or the big win at least, it feels like going back home, you'll see Halliburton play better. You'll see Turner play better. You'll see Siakam be more involved. And there's a reason I'm seeing it as 6 and a hook. There's a reason the lines makers have that. Like, and the Knicks are still banged up. OG, from what I know, is still not playing. So you still have that injury to deal with.
No, he's out for weeks, I believe.
So, like, you're not gaining anyone. And yes, they at home in front of the Garden crowd, they got hot. And again, Brunson 44. He hasn't been doing that every game in this series, and he actually hasn't been doing anything near that in Indiana. So they're going back to Indiana. So you would think Brunson would not be to that level. Look, I would go with what the spread is saying. Everything we've said has been dead fucking wrong.
I mean, it's not even dead wrong. It's horrifyingly wrong. You would think these scripts are being written by Stephen King. My God. The horror. It's Colonel Kurtz time. All right, a very exciting hockey game last night. It looked like Carolina was going to do what many thought would be impossible, and that would be bounce back from a 3-0 deficit. It has happened in the NHL. It's not undoable. It's not unthinkable. You take them, cliche city here, Lubie. One game at a time. That's all we can worry about. We got to win the next one and see if we can continue the series, keep our season alive. Looks like Carolina's got them by the jugular, man. I mean, Rangers are choking. I'm getting all kinds of messages from Ranger fans. Guys are burning their Ranger jerseys. Holy Roger Bear. I didn't know what was happening. So I tune in the game. It's a 3-1 Carolina, third period, going into the third period. And I turn away for a second. By the time I come back to it, a few minutes into the third period, 3-3. Chris Kreider going crazy. Had a couple of goals. He ended up getting an empty netter to make the final margin 5-3. The Rangers clinch. They are the first President's Trophy winner. The President's Trophy awarded to the team with the best, highest point total in the regular season. First President's Trophy winner in the last 10 years, Libby, last 10 years to make it to the third round, to make it to their conference finals, not even to win the cup. First in the last 10 years to make it to the third round. So the Rangers are there, and they await the winner of tonight's, what could be a Boston bloodbath. Tonight's game between the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers. We cursed the Panthers the other day on the show. I mean, if you're listening and watching this show on NoFilter.net and Caffeine TV, and you go the other way on everything we say, not only go the other way, but take an extreme position, the opposite direction. Go ahead and lay 30 points. You can make up any money line that you want or any point spread that you want. If you want to bet, hey, I think the Knicks are going to win by 30 tonight, you can do that. Bet online, I'm sure, will accommodate you. But if you really wanted to make a score, you would not only take a position against whatever it is that we're saying here on the show. I don't know about you, Louie. I don't want to include you in this darkness because it's been an ugly period for me. I declared the Nuggets as the champions of the NBA, beating the Celtics in a 6-game series. They may not even make it now after what we saw last night. And who knows? I mean, I thought the Panthers were Stanley Cup Finals material. I thought they would make their way there and probably win the Cup. First time ever, franchise history, win the Stanley Cup. They've been to 2 Stanley Cup Finals. They've come up empty both times, even though been very competitive, played gutsy hockey. That last series against the Vegas Knights last year. I mean, what could you say? I mean, they had 5 guys playing that. The most healthy of them had a broken back. Quasi fucking Mono on skates is out there trying to win the Stanley Cup for him, and Vegas was red hot, so you can excuse them that. And they were an upstart 2-year away from expansion team franchise when they were in the Stanley Cup final against a really dynastic type team in the Colorado Avalanche at the time with Patrick Roy in goal. And even though the Beezer was standing on his head, they weren't able to do it. So no Stanley Cups franchise history. Just as I see the light, right? I can see clearly now. All of a sudden, they find themselves in a dogfight, right? They lose that game 5, and now they have to go to Boston to try and take a game 6. We have some measure of confidence that they're going to move on in this thing and face the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Championship round, but it's always dicey, right, Lubie? And especially if we're thinking positively about a team.
Look, it's not that I am shaking in my boots, but I'm not boasting. Hockey's fucking weird. I mean, what the Rangers pulled off last night, good for them. But when it went into the third period, 3-1 in Carolina, I'm like, okay, they're going to game 7. Like, it's rare teams score 2 goals in a period. especially in a playoff atmosphere with
on the road
especially
too.
playing for the playoff lives because Hurricanes are now eliminated. So it's like good for the Rangers. I haven't look. We've seen that from the Panthers in this series. They won 2 games by 5 goals, so it's not like they can't put it together. And they did both of those in Boston. So they play well in Boston. They've now, and I hate doing this. I feel like the announcer at the free throw line when someone's at the free throw line, but they've now won 5 in a row at Boston, going back to last year's first round of the playoffs. But I then watched this series and I watched them. It's like there's a lid on the goal a lot of the time. Outside of those 2 games, they've struggled to get the puck in the net, and they've had chances. They control most of the action, and they still have less than, I think, is it less than 3 goals in all the games outside of those 2 games? Like they have had struggle. And on the power play, that one game they got 4 goals. I don't know if they have 1. I think they maybe have 1 goal in the other 4 games. Like that's not good. And they're getting chances on the power play, but you have to cash those in. That's why I'm not like boasting, because they've struggled in the big moments. We'll see. I lean that they'll close it out tonight. That if I was making a pick, if I was putting money somewhere, I would put it on the Panthers to close it out tonight.
There you go, people. Go the other way.
But I'm not
Bruins by 5. Yeah. You just cursed them. You haven't been as bad as me, Lubie. You haven't been nearly as bad as me. That's for sure. Oh my God! I put the Nuggets in the, holding the Larry O'Brien already. I mean, now they're hanging on for dear life. have to win a game 7 against this upstart team that all of a sudden turned things around. All right, a lot of other stuff was happening in the world of sports, but that goes tonight. Boston and the Panthers. You got the Pacers and the Knicks, and we'll see if the Pacers can force a game 7 back at Madison Square Garden, where they haven't fared very well. So you would have to think the Knicks are still going to be the team that emerges from the Eastern Conference. And sure enough, taking on the Boston Celtics, where you would have to also assume that they'd be badly undermanned. And with the Celtics' penchant for blowing game 2 of the series at home, they've done it 2 times in a row now. Let's say that happens again. And I would assume whoever emerges from that series, Pacers and the Knicks, probably loses to the Celtics. And they find their way into the NBA Finals. Mavs and the Thunder go on Saturday night. And the Mavs in that series, what? They're up 3-2, right? No, yeah, they're 3-2, I think it is.
Mavs are winning that series 3-2. Yes.
3-2, okay. The biggest non-event in all of sports is what, Lubie? You would have to say it's the NFL schedule release, is it not?
I hate that they fucking...
How could you make a television show out of that? I mean, it's one thing you're showing the WNBA draft. Caitlin Clark gets drafted, which, by the way, I mean, welcome to the WNBA. Those girls had a message for her, and everybody was, like, offended by it. Oh, how could they say these cruel things about Caitlin Clark, that she's up against it now? So she goes for a rather tepid 9 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists in the game. Meanwhile, Breanna Stewart, who nobody has mentioned, was a big superstar, of course, in the college ranks. Now in the WNBA, she has 31, 10, and 4 for what was supposed to be a super team. The Liberty last year signed everybody but James Harden to try and be a super team. All of a sudden, I'm an expert on the WNBA.
Naming super teams.
102-66.
Ooh.
That was your final Indiana Fever. Now 0-2 on the season with Caitlin Clark. Going to be a long, hot summer, it looks like.
Yeah, they're going to be done for her. Look, is it still hating if you're right? I mean, because that's why I thought it was funny when people were like, well, what are they saying? The truth? Like,
people assume she was going to come in there and just line it up right from the beginning.
No way. She's not athletic. I mean, she's a fine player, and I think eventually she'll be okay. I don't know if she'll be great. Well, that remains to be seen. But there's a lot of really good players in that league, and they're all pissed. They're all pissed that it takes this girl, woman, whatever you want to call her, to bring attention to the league.
Any recognition whatsoever.
While the lights are bright, because they're now getting attention, right? They're going to annihilate the shit out of her. And that's literally what we're seeing on a night in, night out basis. And I think that's what we're going to see throughout the first year. Now, year 2, I don't know. But the first season, I think it's going to be rough for her. They're coming. They're coming.
Well, I mean, imagine the fanfare over somebody comes into the league, has a 10-turnover game in their opener in a loss, and then a 9-point game in a, 34 plus 2, 36-point blowout at home in a home opener. So a little bit of a salty-looking start there for Caitlin Clark. I'm rooting for it, but wow, I mean, that doesn't really stack up to looking like the aspirations of the league to be carried into worldwide recognition by Caitlin Clark are getting off to any kind of a decent start. The Preakness goes on Saturday. The favorite, Muth, has been scratched. Bob Baffert Some people right away suspecting that maybe there was
no.
some sublimates in the system of this horse. It's a Baffert horse, gets scratched right before the race. All of a sudden develops a mysterious fever. He does have another horse in the race, Imagination. I don't know what kind of juice this horse will be running on, but I'm going to take a position somehow against Mystic Dan and probably watch Mystic Dan jog and make himself eligible to become one of a very few and an elite list of Triple Crown winners if Mystic Dan could go on and win the Belmont Stakes, which is going to be conducted 3 weeks down the road at Saratoga in a very special meet. And our good friend Frank Miramonte will be on the call. PGA yesterday, Brooks Koepka. Man, I mean, is he ever happy? Brooks Koepka? Is he ever happy? I mean, he always looks miserable, this guy, when he's out there. He's got $300 million of Saudi money in his pockets. And he ends up, though, I mean, can you ever discount him?
He's 5 shots back. He's tied with Scheffler.
Scotty Scheffler, who, wow, I mean, what a way to start a tournament. Did you see what happened with him? He's on hole number 1, and he holes out from the fairway like 150, 60 yards away. Jesus. Drops it right in the hole. He's 2 under after 1 hole. But, you know, while playing steadily, he ended up 4 under par. You wouldn't have known that Scheffler was even in the field, or Schauffele for that matter, Xander Schauffele, who's had a very consistent year, but I don't believe he's won a tournament yet this year. Win. No wins, but up there with a 9 under 62 in the opening round at Valhalla yesterday, 3-shot lead over a group of others. I think there were 3 other guys tied at 6 under. Many people lurking in the field that would be of significance, and you'd have to definitively keep an eye on that are lurking in the background there at 4 under. But you would have thought that the only guy that was out there yesterday, according to the coverage, was one Tiger Woods.
Really? Were they really following Tiger?
Tiger Woods, man. They follow him into the portisan. He goes to take a shit, and there they are, cameras in there. Hey, look at that. Do you believe that? Looks to me like he had tacos for breakfast.
Who's still a fan of him? Like, it's been so long since he was relevant. Like, I know none of these guys have taken the mantle, but Jesus. Like,
+1 at 125 to 1.
He's not even close. He's not even near the cut line at this point. Like, I don't get what they're doing. Like, it's so, they should be busting their ass to try and make some of these other guys relevant more than hanging on to someone that hasn't been relevant for over 10 years. When he won the last Masters, he was already not relevant. And that, as we've seen, is over 5 years ago. Like, I think it's so dumb what they're not cultivating new talent at all. And it's the stupidest thing.
It would help if Scheffler was a more effervescent personality. He's not a bad guy at all. Seems like a really good guy. Seems to be well-grounded. Just not the most exciting persona that you ever witnessed in the game. I don't know that Tiger was. We just kind of made him into, the press made him into being the greatest human being that ever walked the face of the planet. Jesus was in second place, for God's sake. God was in second place. I mean, and we found out he had more than his share of human frailties and flaws. That sort of endeared him to me. I mean, I'd rather have a guy that was not impenetrable, infallible, as consistent as he was as a winner. But at this stage, I mean, it's, you know, outside of maybe trying to drum up some empathy for the cause there, can you really feature him? Every shot that he takes is of vital importance as he's shanking balls into sand traps from 3 feet outside. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, he's +1. So he's going to be staggering around the cut line, I think. I'm not sure what it'll be. I mean, it's usually, the top, 70, and then ties. And also, you have to be within 10 shots of the lead. Usually that's where the cut line is established. So that would be right there at +1 at this point. So
just there now.
We'll see what happens. And be teeing off today and be a lot of fun to watch. But nonetheless, they destroyed the course yesterday. Valhalla looked like a pitch and putt to these golfers. Scheffler very much in it, though. And one last thing. This Harrison Butker thing, the kicker for the Chiefs, saying at a commencement ceremony, I mean, what was that, an all-girls school that he was speaking at? And he says, hey, you know where you guys belong? In the kitchen, you motherfuckers.
Sure. My wife, actually, the first time she was like, because we talked about it a couple days ago. And then yesterday she was like, did you guys talk about this? And I was like, it's funny. We actually didn't. There's so much going on with the playoffs. We didn't get to it on anything we did yesterday. But I just find it funny. It's just funny to me where to have anyone.
Ladies, forget your goals, forget your aspirations, forget your intentions, forget the dreams that you've established for yourself. Just go to the kitchen and learn how to make an omelet, will you?
Like to do it at a college graduation, like it's literally the place where women are trying to do more.
Couldn't be a springboard for more hope, could it?
Yeah, like they're trying to do more. Like do it at a high school dropout ceremony, I guess, if you're really doing this stupid ass speech. on top of that, like it's funny in this day and age, some people may want to do that. Who can afford to have two people stay home? In this day and age, people who make good living still have both parties in their home working. Like it's a ridiculous luxury that only probably professional athletes can really afford to have someone just stay home and never work. Like with inflation, with prices what they are, like that's so out of first of all, it's sexist and misogynist, obviously. But it's even on the surface, it's like just out of touch, dude. You're an NFL player, you dumbass. Of course, your wife says you're never home. If she worked too, your kids would be on the fucking streets. Like someone has to be fucking home. Like who makes money like you? Like what are you talking? And he's a great kicker, so he's making actual real money. He's not even making. Well, I'm not going to be in the league tomorrow money. Like Harrison Butker, actually, he's one of the best.
Lining up from 63 yards now, Andy Reid has nothing but faith in Harrison Butker.
And he's won titles. And
it's not a good look. Yeah.
What are you doing on every aspect of that speech? Where it was, what it was, in the era he's saying it.
Well, and especially since the symbol for the Chiefs, so when it comes to women, is Taylor Swift, who's accomplished as much as any woman against all odds. She's one of the richest women in the world today, probably the highest paid entertainer, if it isn't Beyonce. And, this is the woman that's sort of been emblematic of the Chiefs since she's been banging Travis Kelce and hanging around with him. And on the very same team, you got a guy saying, don't even bother, girls. Get yourself a mop.
Like, what do you...
And if you can't clean the kitchen, learn how to fly on the fucking thing.
What do you look? If you can afford,
what does Goodell have to say? Did he make any comment about that? That this is not necessarily the position on the National Football League?
I haven't seen the Chiefs say anything. The problem is he's good. They're not going to get rid of him, and he's white, so it's not like you feel bad.
He fits the profile.
He'll be covered. Like
Holy Colin Kaepernick! I don't think Kaepernick stirred up as much shit.
No, Kaepernick, who was a good player, still not great, not a real good starter, but caliber, was blackballed. You're not going to, and what he did was pro equality. It wasn't hateful toward a sect of the group. It was trying to lift up his own.
It was more provocative in terms of there could be another side to this argument. Whereas with Butker, you're just being an asshole. That's all there is to it.
He's being a misogynistic pig, and nothing will happen to him. He's going to be there and training.
Will women be cheering him as he comes out there to try to win a game for the Chiefs that puts him into the postseason?
In that vein, the professor showed me this. Our friend, the professor, who's been on some of our gambling shows, Harrison Butker, in that one day, is now leading all NFL jersey sales. Isn't that psychotic?
Because everybody believes, they don't want to admit it, they all believe that this is where a woman's place is, in the kitchen.
Yeah, right.
Kind of crazy. All right, we disavow any knowledge of any of those kind of sentiments whatsoever, because we don't want to get in any jackpots, and we love all you girls out there, and we wish you all the best.
My wife works. Look, my wife would love to stay at home, she says. I still think she's full of it. Like at some point she would do something. She's way too creative.
Hey, it's nice if you can do it, I guess. But you know what? We'll be working to our graves, Lubie. We're going to be like Hubie Brown, man. 90 years old, and just we're going to pass out in the booth, spewing out some stats there. That's the fourth time on the offensive end of the court. Yeah.
The kids grow up. My mom stayed at home until we went to school, and then she worked. Like, why sit at home? So she can be bored? Like, I don't understand. The being at home, the kids aren't even there. How old are your kids? They eventually leave and go do their own fucking thing. Like, what woman's like, my goal is to sit here and...
I think he's going to be announced at the Republican convention as the vice presidential candidate, running mate of Donald Trump, who's probably going to win this thing, Lubie. I mean, when you really look at it, what the hell is happening here? It's amazing. We got to run. Thanks. You guys have a great weekend. I don't know that I have a strong feeling about the Preakness, except I think I'm going to backwheel Mystic Dan. I'm going to go with a standard move that I've been failing with my entire gambling life. But going to the track forever, figuring what's the way to win money, go against what the public thinks. Whatever the public thinks, you go ahead and figure they're going to get fucked somehow. So what happens with these 3 to 5 favorites? They usually end up either running out of the money or getting beat by a nose by some balloon that comes up on a rail, especially in these Triple Crown races. So I'm going to take a position, and with only 8 horses in the field, it costs you $42, $1. Bet online. I don't know if they take horse racing, but they take just about everything else. But wherever you can get down on the ponies, it would be all 5 all. That would be the ticket. All 5 all. $42, $1 try. Hope some balloon wins it, and you'll cash yourself a nice ticket if Mystic Dan runs second. But I see Mystic Dan on the lead. Maybe somebody mows him down because, and that's a track that favors front runners. So going to be a very dangerous proposition, and it would be interesting to see, since they were reluctant to enter Mystic Dan in the race to begin with. If you ended up going 2 for 2 and then having 3 weeks to rest up and see if you can go a mile and a half and jiggity jog. Well, they're only going a mile and a quarter this year in Belmont. A little bit of a change of pace there because they're running at Saratoga, and the track doesn't really configure well for a mile and a half race. So that's also an asset. Would you have to then put the fabled asterisk? I hate the asterisk, Lubie. I think it's all bullshit, but I guess it might be something that you would have to consider if the third leg of the Triple Crown was a shorter distance than the arduous test of stamina and the ability to sustain speed over a long distance, a mile and a half. You don't see a lot of mile and a half races in the United States. I would think the Belmont is among maybe a handful that are contested every year. All right, we got to get out of here. You guys have a great weekend. May you make a score on just about everything. I don't know if we gave you enough to go against everything that we've said, but we'll see. If the Panthers lose tonight, you're going to see a very pale Mike Lubie Lubitz coming up on Monday, although Game 7 would be contested on Sunday.
Already. I'm hoping that does not take place. Let's go Cats, please.
I hope you're not gargling with embalming fluid on Monday's edition of the program. That'd be something to look forward to, people. All right, thanks for tuning in. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time on the Monday edition of the Morning Briefing.